Hi there, I'm Rob Bertman, founder of Money with Impact, and today we're going to talk about the 4 things you need to know before taking someone's financial advice. Now, you may be skeptical of the financial industry, and it could be for good reason, because maybe either you or a close friend or family member has had a bad experience with a bank, with dealing with credit card companies or student loans. Maybe you've gotten some bad advice from a financial advisor or a life insurance salesperson or something like that. We all remember the housing bust, the stock market crash, and all these things, right? Now, I can tell you, because I've been in the financial industry for more than 15 years, I've networked with a lot of financial professionals. And I can tell you that there are a lot of great people out there doing hard work for their clients that's in their best interest and giving them sound advice. But I can also tell you that I've seen the opposite. I've seen people who give advice that is really not in line with their client's best interest. It's more in line with their best interest, if you know what I'm talking about. I've also seen people who really aren't that knowledgeable about the subject they're giving advice on, yet they do it anyway, and they end up leading the clients astray. So this is actually one of the reasons I started Money with Impact, because although I've been lucky enough to work for a lot of the good guys out there, I also know that people either get no advice or they get bad advice. And I want to make sure that people have access to good, sound financial advice that they can actually understand and implement, and that's not intimidating to learn about. So I'm really excited for this one, because if you go through these 4 things that we're going to talk about and you get the answers and you go through this process, chances are you're getting good financial advice from someone who really knows what they're talking about. And that's just critically important, because no one cares more about your money than you do, right? You care the most about it. But if you need to work with someone else, you want to make sure that they're very closely aligned with you and that you're getting advice that's right for you. Okay? So that's what we're going to talk about. So number 1, can you understand the financial advice that someone is giving to you? Okay, this is just so important, because it's my philosophy that if I can't understand, if someone can't explain it to me in a way that I can understand, I'm just frankly not going to do it. But the financial industry, it's not known to, it's really known for having this intimidating, jargony language that really seems like some people feel like they're not smart enough to understand, right? But you're smart enough to understand this. But what some people do is, when they're getting explained a concept or given financial advice, they just kind of nod their head, and they're kind of hoping that the other person doesn't know, that they don't understand what they're talking about, and they're just really afraid to ask a question because they feel like that'll just give them up, like make them seem like they're not smart. But you are smart enough to understand these concepts. And so it's really important to ask those questions. So if someone's explaining you something and you don't quite understand it, just ask something like, I'm really not quite understanding this. Can you explain it to me in a different way? Or why would you do this instead of that? Can you help me understand this a little bit better? There's absolutely nothing wrong with asking those questions. And if anyone makes you feel silly for asking the question, then frankly, you just shouldn't be working with them. You shouldn't be talking with them. They probably shouldn't be in your life. Okay? A good person is going to be supportive and help you understand it, and they're not going to try to intimidate you with this jargony language, right? So make sure you can understand it, because if you can't understand it, you probably shouldn't do it, okay? The second thing is, are you working with somebody who's knowledgeable and competent in the advice that they're giving to you? Okay, now this is just really important. And again, notice I didn't say experienced. Now, I do think experience is important, but I don't necessarily think that 30 years experience is much more important than 10 years experience. Because we all know that there are younger people in a field that might know more than those people who have been in the industry for a while. So a couple ways to know if someone's really competent and knowledgeable is check out their LinkedIn page, right? Go through and Google their name too. Like, look at their LinkedIn page, see what else they're up to online, and that might give you a sense of how much they know, what have their experiences been. Another question I really like to ask is, how did you end up in this role? How did you end up in this job? And you can tell if someone's going to be knowledgeable or competent by the enthusiasm or the passion in which they tell that story. Someone who's like, I just kind of fell into it, and I got this job offer, and so I took it. Chances are they're not going to be that knowledgeable and competent, because it doesn't seem like they're going to be that driven to get the latest and greatest information and to work with people and to be on the cutting edge, right? You want someone who's excited to tell you their story of how they got to that job, okay? So those are 2 ways to figure out if someone is competent and knowledgeable. Now, this third thing is very important, okay? It's, are their interests aligned with yours? In other words, your best interests should be in their best interest. And there are some industries and some financial products and some financial advice that's given out there where it's the opposite. It's more to help out the company or the salesperson than to help out the end client. And I'll give you an example. So life insurance, right? So let's just say that someone needs $1 million of coverage, and they can either get a term policy for $50 a month, or they can get a whole life policy for $500 a month, still with $1 million coverage, right? Now, there may be different reasons for buying one or the other. I'm not going to get into that now. But did you know that people who sell life insurance, that they get the same percentage cut of that $50 that they do of that $500 in most cases? In other words, if you buy that $500 a month product, they're going to make 10 times the commission and the money that they would off that $50 a month policy. Now, I'm not saying that people who sell that stuff are bad people, because there are plenty of good ones out there, right? But isn't it just good to know that? And don't you think that they might want to push that 10 times dollar amount so that they can make 10 times the money? I'm not saying they do all the time again, but I'm just saying it's something to be aware of. Now, another way to find out if someone's best interests are aligned with yours is ask them if they take this advice. Are they actually doing the advice that they're giving to you? Do they eat their own cooking? Because if it's good enough for you, shouldn't it be good enough for them, right? Or if they're not in your same situation, if or when they were in your situation, did they take this advice that they're giving to you right now? And if the answer is no, you got to run for the hills, okay? It is so important that the person giving the advice would take it themselves and that they're compensated in a way that's aligned with your best interests, okay? So that's the third point. Are their best interests aligned with yours? So we've talked about, can you understand what the advice that's being given to you? We've talked about if you're working with someone who's knowledgeable or competent, and are their best interests aligned with you? And the fourth and final piece is, what are the total fees and commissions that you're going to be paying as a result of taking this financial advice? Now, there's some stuff that's upfront. Maybe someone will tell you that, hey, to do your financial plan, I'll charge you $2,000. That costs $2,000. That's pretty much upfront. But maybe what they don't tell you is if you invest with them too, that you're going to be paying 1%. You're going to be paying 1% of how much money you have invested with them over time. So I'm not saying that one is good or bad, but just know the upfront costs and the ongoing costs. And make sure they can explain to you the stuff that's not only explicit, like a $2,000 financial planning fee, but also things that really are kind of behind the scenes. Like if you buy this product, how much in commissions are you paying to them? So understand the fees. Okay, so these are the four things. Make sure you can understand it. Make sure you're working with someone who's competent and knowledgeable. Make sure that their interests are aligned with yours. And make sure you understand the true cost of taking their financial advice. And if you do those four things, you're going to be set up to know that you're getting sound advice from someone who knows what they're talking about. Okay, so these are four things that are very important to follow. So thanks for taking the time. I'm sure this has helped you clarify things. I know when I put this together, when I thought about this in years past, that these are really the things to hone in on. Now, I also want to make a special announcement. So next week, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. Based upon your feedback and feedback from other people who have been watching these videos and people that have contacted me, I put together a free training series of 3 videos that's going to take you through 3 areas that people express the most interest in learning more about. The first one has to do with finding money that isn't there. So the first video is going to be how to find $2,500 in the next year of spending to cut that you didn't know was there and that you're not going to miss. I'm not talking about cutting out the stuff you enjoy in life. I'm talking about a way to find $200 or more a month of things you're spending money on that you really won't miss if you cut them out. I have a framework that we're going to cover in that first video. Okay, the second video is going to be, okay, now that you found this money, where's the best place for you to put it? And I'll guide you through a framework that will take you step by step in how to prioritize this extra money that you're going to be finding. And the third video is going to be about wealth building and investing and de-jargoning, demystifying this whole investing thing, because this is where a lot of intimidating language is used and it may be hard to understand. But like I said before, you should be able to understand this, and I'm going to provide you with a way that you can understand how to build your wealth and how to invest and explain some terminology, the different accounts and so forth. So because this is a training series, I'm going to be doing it a little bit differently. So when it's announced, when this training comes out next week, there'll be a place to sign up for it. And the reason I'm having people sign up for it is so that you make sure to get all 3 videos without missing one. And so actually, if you want to make sure that you're one of the first to know about this free training series I have coming out, make sure that sign up below in this blog, put in your name and email address to sign up to get these blogs on a regular basis. And I'll also make the announcement when the free training comes out next week. I'm really excited to give it to you, and I greatly appreciate the feedback, you letting me know what you want to learn about. So look out for that next week. Again, thanks so much for taking the time. I'm here to help you on your financial journey, and I can't wait to talk to you next week. I will talk to you soon. Thanks.